I feel like every time I review a microphone I have to make this point, but it's a point worth making. On the other hand, most people coming to this video for a review of this specific microphone might already know this, but just in case you are maybe looking for a better quality mic than what you're dealing with, either onboard your camera or onboard your phone or whatever, this is my point. People will watch a video that looks like crap for far longer than they will a video that sounds like crap. This, for example, especially if you're listening with headphones, for example, how long do you think you can put up with this kind of quality of audio? It's already turning you off, isn't it? So, this, for example, is a lot easier to listen to. It doesn't sound great. I'm way too far away from the microphone to sound sort of really present, and there's a lot of background noise. There's boats and birds and cars and stuff going on, but it's at least a lot easier to listen to than what you were listening to. And that's kind of my point. Your audio doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be good, because audio carries 60-70% of your video quality, especially in this day and age where a lot of people are watching your content on their phones. So your exquisite 4K full frame quality doesn't actually matter all that much, because you're not, your viewers aren't seeing all the pixels. But you can be damn sure they're hearing all your audio, especially again if they're watching on the mobile phone, because those don't have spectacular speakers built into them to begin with. So the higher quality you start with, the better it's going to sound coming out of those. And if they happen to be listening through headphones, that's going to exacerbate audio problems as well, because the audio is going right into the head with no other sort of atmospheric noise to help filter it. They're hearing everything, every little exquisite detail of your terrible audio. So audio, you got to pay attention to it, no matter what you're doing, no matter what kind of content you're making, whether you're making, gameplay playthroughs, whether you're making mini documentaries, whether you're making review, I'm not going to go through the entire list of what people do here on YouTube. I trust enough that I've made my point, at least made my point well enough to now switch over to the onboard microphones in my camera to show you the difference that this thing makes. There we go. So, how do you like how I sound now? What if I stand back here at a regular presentation distance? This is the Rode VideoMic NTG, and NTG is a moniker that they usually reserve for their broadcast quality shotgun microphones and boom microphones, and that's what this is. This is a family member of the NTG, meaning they call it broadcast quality, but obviously it's designed as an on-camera mic. It's in their VideoMic family. I've been using VideoMics for years. I started with the original VideoMic, then the VideoMic Pro, then I went to the Video Micro, which I just so happen to have here because basically I don't leave home with that. If I leave home with a camera, I leave home with this. I've been using it ever since they very first came out, and I love it. So now you're hearing the Video Micro. Like I said, it's been my go-to mic ever since it came out. It is small and compact, so it's good for my mirrorless cameras that I use. It doesn't use a battery, so I never have to remember to keep it charged or replace the battery, which was my issue with the original VideoMic Pro. I kept leaving it turned on, and the battery would go flat. And that, by the way, is one of the many problems that this solves, because this, well, it automatically turns on and off when you plug it in your camera for a start. Let me take you through the rest of the goody stuff. The goody stuff. What's wrong with my words today? So number one, size and weight. It's made from what they call aerospace grade aluminium. Well, they don't call it that. The industry calls it that. It just basically means it's very, very strong and very, very light, which is a good thing, because if you are going to use this as a boom mic, so attached to a boom pole, you don't want it to be very heavy, because your boom operator is going to get tired. And I speak from experience that that's a tough job, holding up boom. You wouldn't think it'd be very tough, but you'd be surprised how little time you can spend hovering a mic over someone's head before your shoulders start to go rah! And of course, as an on-camera microphone, you want that weight to be nice and light as well, because you don't want it to make your camera feel all off balance, do you? And more these days, amateur and semi-pro and aspirational YouTubers and stuff like that are using gimbals to get that smooth, steady shot. And again, on-camera microphones tend to upset some gimbals because it throws off the center of gravity that they're expecting. So it's not usually a good idea to use an on-camera, camera-mounted microphone when using a gimbal. But if you have to, you do want a microphone that is not going to sort of upset that center of gravity too much. And that's what this thing does, or doesn't do, as it were. I felt I worded that a bit ambiguously. What I'm saying is it's light, so any decent gimbal shouldn't have a problem with it. On the subject of balance, it does have a rail system, so you can move the microphone back and forth on its own little rail thing a little bit to account for things like balance, or if you're using a particularly wide lens, you might want to back the microphone off a bit so it doesn't intrude into the top of the frame. And even that is exquisitely engineered. A lot of mics and sort of various on-camera accessories have this kind of system where you can adjust the positioning a little bit, but I've never felt one this smooth. It is silky smooth. It is just one of those little Rode touches. One of the things that many people like about the Rode microphones is the engineering behind them. They care about their stuff. So the basic mechanical properties of the microphone are solid. It's very light, it's very strong. The standard lyre mount that they use is very reliable, and shock absorption and reducing rumble coming up and handling noise and things like that. So you can rely on all of that. So let's talk about the bells and whistles that this thing has that their other microphones, particularly their other video mics, don't have. First among them is their infinitely variable gain control on the back. It's a little knob that you can just change the gain. Many microphones have variable gain to one point or another. Some have little switches you can change between sort of various settings. Some have dials like this one does. This dial is, again, Rode, exquisitely smooth and highly engineered, but it's actually got a broader range than everything else I've come across as well. On the spec sheet it says everything from the sort of lowest mic level all the way up to headphone level input, which is ridiculous, but it does mean that the compatibility, the variability, the adaptability of this microphone is second to none, because most cameras want a microphone level input, and that's fine. Being able to boost the output of this thing up to headphone level output, which is almost never going to be useful, but for that 5% of the time it is going to be useful, it's really useful to be able to do that. It does have the usual niceties you would expect to see on a high-end NTG style microphone. It has selectable roll-off at 75 and 150, so you can cut back any sort of rumble and things, low-end rumble. It has a high-frequency shelf boost as well, so if you're using it with sort of a big, heavy windsock or dead cat or something like that, you can sort of boost those high ends that would normally get knocked back by that a little bit, which is also nice, thoughtful. It has a minus 20 decibel pad for clipping if you're in a very high sound pressure level environment, concert or something for example. But it also has another really cool trick, and I haven't seen this on any mic that I've used before. I've known it exists on some very particular mics, but this is spectacular, especially if you are a run and gun shooter. It has a safety channel option, and if you're not familiar with what a safety channel option does, it is spectacular. On your left channel, it runs ordinary, regular output the way you've got it set, your levels and everything. On the right channel, it depresses that by 20 decibels, so you can get two different sort of levels through the one microphone, and all you do in editing is you just sort of mono control whichever track you want. So if you have, you know, your regular recording level like we're doing now, but something extremely loud happens, or I start yelling or freaking out or whatever it is, I've got that second softer channel as a backup I can go to if the main channel clips out. Having that kind of backup, I mean, I can think of half a dozen occasions on show floors, for example, at places like PAX or IEM and things like that, where my audio has, you know, clipped out. I mean, there's nothing I can do, just something loud happens, you know, big celebration, people screaming, you know, someone wins a League of Legends match and the crowd goes nuts, or there's an announcement or whatever it is, something loud happens and it ruins my audio. Having that second backup channel, that would have saved me several takes and annoyances. It's brilliant. Another little nicety it has that helps you when you're not using this necessarily with a proper good camera, which should have audio level meters on it. It has a little light, a little clipping light to tell you if you are clipping. It's not as good as having a proper VU meter like a proper camera will have. I'm going to have to reposition. That sun is just coming through back there and blowing out the entire shot now, isn't it? All right. We'll move on after I finish my point here, but there's a little clipping light. So if you're using it with your phone or with a cheapo camera or something you can't necessarily see the levels on, you get a little cheat guide there. It's just a little light that blinks when you're clipping. It's not, you know, as useful as a VU meter, as I keep saying, but it's there as a tool you can use. And bye, I'm disappearing in the sun now. This is the Deity VideoMic D3 Pro. I reviewed this about a year ago, I think, and the Rode microphone has taken, let's be kind of call it, inspiration from some of the tricks that this does. If you wanted to be unkind, you could call the Rode NTG a bit of a rip-off of this. If you wanted to be more generous, you could point out that Rode have been in this business for a long time, and just because they weren't first with this doesn't mean they can't do it at all, because their mics are well known for being good anyway. And quite frankly, if they didn't sort of at least match the features of this, they'd be dumb, because they'd be, you know, loyal customers might go, well, the Rode VideoMics are kind of lagging behind the feature set, we better switch. And they might never come back to Rode. So Rode had to come out with the NTG to sort of match step with this, except, of course, Rode does a few things better and does a few things this doesn't do. This does most of the stuff the Rode does. It has a little dial on the back for gain, although the Rode one is a little bit better. It's you know, got a built-in battery that charges via USB-C. That's about the same. It has the 75 and 150 roll-offs. It doesn't have the high boosting. It doesn't have the ability to do the safety thing I was talking about before. And perhaps most importantly, the Rode has one more trick that this doesn't do at all. See, the Rode has a USB 3.0 connection for charging, but if you plug it into a computer, it also turns into a USB mic. This doesn't do that. And indeed, the very instant I plugged it into the computer, it was picked up as a standard USB microphone. It was identified correctly by its name in the settings, and it took me a matter of seconds to connect it to OBS here to do this test recording for you. So there you are. Perfect! When you do have it plugged in via USB, the dial on the back stops adjusting the gain and starts adjusting the output, because the 3.5mm jack that you would normally connect to your camera for the microphone input reverses itself and it turns into a headphone output, which is potentially convenient, not for the way I tend to use my microphones here, but it's still nice. I mean, otherwise that jack would be doing nothing, so they turned into a headphone port for you. And if you're wondering what that means for how to adjust the gain, you adjust the gain like you do in any other microphone. You go into the system audio settings and you move the gain slider just like every microphone you ever plug in. For the sake of testing this properly, because I wouldn't normally have a microphone like that on frame with me, it was just there because to show you that the microphone was connected. But this is how you would normally use a boom mic like this, currently sitting right there just out of frame, about, I'm going to call that 40-45 centimeters away from me, pointed sort of at my chin there. So hopefully this will sound pretty good and won't sort of be too open sounding. But of course, the other application for running the microphone via USB into a computer is if you were doing the podcasting style thing. And if you are doing an audio podcast, it doesn't matter if the microphone's in front of your damn face. You can sort of choke right up on it right here. I'm about a fist away from it, so you should be getting a nice proximity effect. So my voice should be sounding nice and rich and deep. Hopefully, anyway. I've been shouting a lot today, doing the torture test, which you're going to hear later in the video, so my voice is a little bit more hoarse than it usually is, so some of the velvety rumble is gone. But one of the little tricks that Rode did pick up from the Deity guys, and Deity have done this on a couple of different microphones now, the Shotgun one and one of the Lav ones as well, which I quite like, so hopefully Rode, if you want to follow suit with one of your Lav mics, do this trick as well. But it has auto switching, so it works with regular cameras on the regular 3.5mm sort of microphone input that's just, you know, on every decent camera out there. Sony, are you listening? But if you plug it into a phone, something with what they call a TRRS or a 4-pole connection, the microphone has its own teeny tiny little computer in there that actually figures out that it's connected to that and appropriately rejiggers its output to work perfectly with your phone as well. And here's your demo of the microphone plugged into the iPhone, just through the standard audio adapter, because of course you've got to adapt it to the lightning port, because no standard headphone port on the iPhone, or most phones these days, so you'll need an adapter of some kind. Although I don't have the proper cable to test whether I can plug straight from USB-C into lightning port. Oh, I do. Let me check. Let me check and see if it works on USB mode. Because the audio straight out of the iPhone is remarkably good. I've used this several times and people go, oh, were you using an external microphone on that? Because it sounds really good. I was like, nah, that's just the onboard mics. Because on the latest iPhones in particular, it's extraordinarily good. But it is not extraordinary directional. So let me take you somewhere noisier and we'll talk about why you want a boom microphone. Oh, there's a noise there. I don't know whether you can hear that. There's a big ride-on lawnmower going by. But yeah, the point of a boom microphone is it's very directional. So when you go off axis, you get less and less of what's coming in from the sides and the back. And if I come back on camera in front of the microphone, hopefully you would have been able to hear the difference there. With an omnidirectional microphone, such as on these, or indeed the built-in mics, it just picks up all the audio everywhere, which is not usually ideal, to say the least. Okay, welcome to the microphone noise torture test. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn that gain all the way down so we can just get a lower noise for us possible. There we go. Hopefully you can still hear me. So on this side, city, construction, highway traffic, the whole Megillah. On the other side, we have the harbour. Less noise coming through there, no reflective surfaces to bounce the traffic noise back into the microphone. With a bit of luck, I'll be able to demonstrate to you the off-axis rejection of this microphone, because if I go this way, you'll hear a lot more of that city and traffic background noise, and if you come across this way, you'll hopefully hear a lot less of it. It will still be pretty bad. The angle of the sun and everything is not very conducive for a nice shot here, but I'm just trying to demonstrate the absolute worst case scenario and possible benefit of having a directional mic, because let me show you what happens if you don't have a directional mic. So, same shot, same conditions with the on-camera microphones. Can you hear the difference? Can you hear me at all? I mean, these are omnidirectional microphones, so it doesn't really matter which way we're facing here. You're still going to get atrocious amounts of background noise. The other thing up here, you might be hearing, I don't know yet, I have to listen to it back, but there's a little bit of a breeze up here, as always is. And again, something that the Rode will help with, because the Rode, let me come here, comes with a little foam screen here, but you can also get a big fluffy dead cat if you want to be shooting in very high wind conditions. And for a point of comparison, I've now switched back to the VideoMic, the very simple but extremely reliable microphone that I love so much that I told you about at the beginning. I don't have any control over the gain aside from the in-camera control over the gain, and you never really want to do that because the in-camera preamps, and even the best ones, are kind of crappy. So let me turn this around. This is a much shorter mic, remember, so the off-axis rejection is a little bit limited because it's not as shotgunny as a shotgun microphone, but it's still doing a pretty damn fine job, and certainly better than the onboard mics. But I'm willing to bet, once I get home and look at this on the computer with my headphones on, that the Rode VideoMic NTG is probably doing a significantly better job. What do you reckon? And of course, because I have it with me for the sake of comparison, we better do a comparison with the Dainty mic up here too, which I would consider the most immediate competitor to the Rode NTG, because they are so feature similar on the basic features, the variable gain, the automatic switching between mobile phone mode and camera mode, all that kind of stuff. So let's twist ourselves around here and see how we go with the off-axis rejection of all that nasty noise over there. And I'm expecting not a lot of difference between this and the Rode, because I know for a fact both those companies make excellent microphones. Which one is best? Which one sounds best? I don't know. I haven't fiddled with any of the low-end roll-off or high-end stuff or anything. This is just the bass performance of the microphones. If you're in a more controlled situation, trying to shoot like this for actual news gathering, you might spend a bit more time getting the sound right and fiddle with the low end or something to get rid of some of that traffic rumble. But for the point of comparison, this is what you have. So, ending where we started with a lot of unnecessary noise. I should have picked a better location to wrap up, but I'm taking a shot here. I'll do another take elsewhere just in case I decide not to use it. But when it comes down to the choice between this or the VideoMic, or indeed the Dainty microphone, I'm siding with the Rode here. Mainly because of its feature set, mainly because I can switch it easily between the camera and my phone, which again I do very frequently. I also get the bonus of the USB connection to the computer, so if I am recording extra dialogue, extra voiceover or stuff on the computer at home or in the hotel room if I'm traveling, I get a very consistent sound from the microphone as far as the tonality goes, as far as its character goes, things like that. It's real nice to have that sort of consistency, and it's real nice just to be able to pack one microphone to do all those jobs. Once upon a time I would have one microphone for the camera and a separate microphone for doing the stuff at the computer and things like that, and then I sort of did a hybrid kind of thing with an adapter, but now I can plug this microphone just into whatever with one set of cables. That's an extra layer of convenience, an extra layer of, or one less layer of crap I have to carry. And I've said this again and again and again, the less stuff I have to carry when I am traveling with my cameras, the happier I am. So all those extra features and flexibility and power do make up for the trade-off I have for the sort of maybe twice the size of the microphone compared to the VideoMic, which again I love so much because of its compact size and its absolute worry-free usage. I may still take both with me when I travel, because the VideoMic weighs nothing, its size is nothing. I might still take it anyway, just for the run and gun stuff. But for anything I care about the audio, for anything where I am not necessarily using a lav mic or a handheld or something, this would be a this is staying in my toolkit. Is what I'm saying. It is staying in my bag. When you see me at events from now on, chances are you'll see the Rode NTG on top of my camera instead of the little Rode VideoMic. So thank you for watching, and more importantly, thank you for listening. I hope it hasn't been too bad to listen to most of this video, especially this torch test up here. I've done a few microphone tests up here and I hate it every time. I can hear myself shouting and I hate it. But if you would be so kind as to drop a comment down below, if you haven't already, do the thumb. If you haven't already, do the subscribe. If you haven't already, ring that bell. If you haven't already, I do appreciate you coming here and making it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and we'll catch you next time. I'm going to walk off frame and just let you enjoy the beautiful ambience of Sydney under construction, as it always is. Of course, that's all slightly out of focus because I locked the focus, didn't I? Shit.